Good evening. My name is Frank. Tonight, life in Seattle's autonomous zone on the Republic Broadcasting Network, where truth lives. Call into the show live and ask a question or get involved at 800-313-9443 or listen at 605-313-0163. It's kind of a curious event that's happened across the country. Some of it very tragic. Some of it we will never get over. But we have a situation that is now winding down in Seattle's autonomous zone, or the Capitol Hill autonomous zone. Prior to that, Capitol Hill occupied protest. And you wonder what it is like to live through tear gas and an Occupy movement. We have heard that cars were not allowed to pass and weapons were pointed at the drivers. Fortunately, the Seattle police elected to leave it alone. And they did so to save lives on both sides. I think Washington, D.C., and Washington State had lengthy conversations about the psychology behind these movements. And the conclusion they came to was, if you leave it alone and you don't give it any attention, there will be no further reason to protest if no one is watching. So this move saved lives on both sides. In March, the usually very busy Capitol Hill neighborhood turned into a very desolate place to live. Businesses boarded up as if in wartime. Graffiti artists painted the plywood-covered windows with murals to remind any passerby that the coronavirus is not permanent and you don't need to wear a mask here, to think about the community, that things will slowly but surely return to a new normal. At that time, the police thought they could quell this riot or this protest. But that was not to happen. It was fueled by too many deaths at the hands of then police. But now, as it winds down and takes its place in history, we can take a look and understand what has happened and what has to be done about it. First of all, no policeman should ever hold anyone in a death grip, if you will. And no policeman should ever put his hands on you unless it is to spin you around to arrest you. For a real crime, I hope. The old tail light out doesn't work. It's time for reform. It's time for re-education on both sides. In a peaceful protest, such as I have headed up and attended, we didn't burn any buildings, but we still got our point across. So, damage against human beings, deaths, damage against real estate, that's not the way. One person, Sophia Lee, was a Capitol Hill resident. She was a transgender woman who found solace and community in the neighborhood, which she moved to over 6 years ago. It is also quickly gentrifying. Homeless people live on the doorsteps of apartment complexes that house tech workers, where rent can climb over $2,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. The neighborhood's community roots might have developed. It find its new role. In recent weeks, Capitol Hill has sputtered back to life by taking a significant role in the ongoing protest movement. What has sprung up in the neighborhood is a radical experiment. It is a place where people self-govern without leaders or law enforcement. While some residents appreciate the social movement, others fear that the original intent of the space as a gathering place that amplifies the message of the Black Lives Matter movement has been diluted because of what has become a tourist attraction. The movement would not have existed without death. Death of black people at the hands of law enforcement. And days of relentless community protests. After the recent killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, people in Seattle took to the streets in spite of the stay-at-home order. For about a week, the protesters congregated at the East Precinct located in the heart of Capitol Hill. Their intent was peaceful at the outset, but then things turned violent. Law enforcement started tossing canisters of tear gas and deploying flashbangs and pepper spray. On one of the first few days of the protest at the East Precinct, Lee was caught in the crossfires of the tear gas. She said it was like breathing in hot pepper, she says. With the sting of the gas piercing the back of her throat, she ran back to her home, a block south of the precinct. Others were dispersing as well. When she arrived at her apartment, people were already assembled there outside her door, coughing. Hours later, the gas had dissipated. She says, I was able to sleep okay that night, but there was the constant sound of the helicopters outside. Now, how are people able to sustain all of this personal damage, personal hardship? This is like a war zone. Exactly like a war zone. This tense atmosphere hung in the air. A gentleman named Reuben, and he didn't give his name for privacy reasons, who lives across the street from the East Precinct, had to show his ID and key to law enforcement and the National Guard, which barricaded the streets, to enter his building. Over the following week, protesters returned to the precinct. At that time, the police continued to hold the line. After one intense evening of flashbangs, pepper spray, and tear gas, the atmosphere changed. On June 9, the police returned the following day to hand over the precinct to the protesters. Most of Seattle and the rest of the nation now refer to this neighborhood, a series of 6+ blocks, as the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest Zone, or CHOP for short. It was initially called CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, but the name has since been revised to reflect the goal of the original Black Lives Matter protests. At first, protesters barricaded a few blocks surrounding the East Precinct. They decided that it would be for the people. Signs at the barricades said, "You are now entering Free Cap Hill, where you don't have to pay for anything. No cop co-op." They had free refreshments. Help yourself. This is by you and for you. They took the East Precinct and they painted over police and put people. So it became Seattle People Department, East Precinct. This space is now property of the Seattle people. Artists made a memorial for Black Lives Lost, 1 block west from the precinct. Over the course of a few days, artists had painted Black Lives Matter, running west to east along Pine Street. Others, with a green thumb, have developed a garden at the nearby park, which is now surrounded by tents where demonstrators are living. I remember when we had occupied Boston, and the police basically left them alone until they were able to see their numbers also diminish, and the remaining demonstrators were ushered out. CHOP was something else. Again, they were dug in. Meanwhile, residents within and nearby the CHOP are rethinking their relationship with their neighborhood. Lee has started changing the landmarks that she associates with where she lives. It used to be that when she meets up with friends, and she says, "I make this mental judgment if they would know Pony, a gay bar, or the Ferrari dealership better. But now, I definitely do tell people I live half a block south of the CHOP." Yeah. Thank you so much for listening.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
Good evening once again from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, I report on life in Seattle's autonomous zone on the Republic Broadcasting Network, where truth lives. I talked earlier, actually in the beginning, about the psychology behind this. And this is part of the history that people will look at many, many years from now. The police backed off, and they did so for a reason. And that was to stop any further killing on both sides. The reason mainstream media has stayed away from it, for the most part, is so that it would wind down. These facts will be I think they will be probably written down as the way it was in the autonomous zone. And now we hear that the leader, as of today, tweeted, or I believe it might have been yesterday, that people should disband and put their votes behind their votes and their energy behind the Democratic Party. So that is the way this will end, with people leaving and supporting the Democratic Party, who did what for them? I am not up on it. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm sure I will. Others that live in or nearby have mixed feelings about it. It's not necessarily noisier than life before, but Aiken, who lives on the border of the zone, felt the need to leave his home the first Sunday of CHOP, overwhelmed by the number of people nearby. It just feels like I'm next to the Eiffel Tower, he says. Tensions have escalated since the inception of CHOP. Late on June 14, someone broke into an auto shop in Capitol Hill. This past weekend, there were 2 shootings in the shop, one of which ended up killing a man. Police say they tried to respond, but were thwarted by the protesters who did not want them there. There are residents who have begun to feel restless. One woman who lives next to CHOP posted on Nextdoor that she was looking for an alternate place to live. I am a liberal and supporter of BLM, she wrote. I am, however, being held hostage in my place by the Occupy protest. I cannot get to and from my apartment safely. I have been verbally harassed and physically threatened by occupants. I am choosing to differentiate them from the BLM protesters. Finally, the inevitable happened. On June 22nd, 2 weeks after the grand experiment began, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan announced that the Seattle Police Department will be returning to the precinct, but did not specify when. In some ways, CHOP is a double-edged sword. Even though it has been a source of anxiety for residents, it has also been a welcoming gathering space that centers Black people. Thank you. It is the bottom of the hour. We have to go to commercial.
Don't believe the church and state and everything they tell you. Believe in me, I'm with the high command. Can you hear me?
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Extend your life with Extendovite. a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Each herb was chosen for their abilities to help improve irregular heartbeats, chest pain, lower cholesterol, as well as normalize blood pressure and clean and strengthen arteries, plus much, much more. Doctors have taken people off of some or all of their pills just because they believe their patients got better while taking Extendivite. Get the dependability of Extendivite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show The Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
Is the Second Amendment your line in the sand? Is the United States Constitution important to you? Are you worried about gun confiscation? You need to join us for free at gunconfiscation.com. At gunconfiscation.com, you will meet like-minded patriots, get the latest Second Amendment news, and find anything you need to prepare for gun confiscation. Visit gunconfiscation.com today. That's gunconfiscation.com. Which side are you on?
Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, we're reporting on Seattle and what has happened there and how it is winding down as of a Twitter post, I believe, yesterday. Earlier, I spoke of a man named Ruben. Now, he lives in the center of the job, and he's seen all kinds of things. Many of its changes. During the first week, Ruben saw someone who was dressed like Jesus Christ escort an aggressive street preacher off the center stage. The day after, he watched hundreds of people gathered around the same stage, which featured indigenous people singing songs and dancing. That's my life in 2020 now, Ruben says. Black folks died for this to exist. But honestly, I am just going to roll with it. Because I could listen to black women speak their truths from outside my window every single damn day. Community leaders and an activist whose brother was killed by Seattle police in 2016 are urging protesters occupying the Capitol Hill organized protest to leave by Wednesday night. In a statement addressed to comrades in the struggle, posted on social media Wednesday, CHOP organizers declared, "It is time we shift to the next phase of our organizing and move from direct action to virtual activism." The CHOP project is now concluded, the lengthy message said. While we expect a very small handful of holdouts may try to remain in the CHOP, no further organizing will be occurring to support this presence, and the number on site will be too small to be more than an annoyance for pedestrians rather than a zonal blockage. We have been briefed that full rehousing of the SPD East Precinct staff into the station will occur no later than early next week and will be preceded by the removal of barriers and the reopening of streets to traffic, the statement said. The statement then urged supporters to vote for presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and to re-elect Washington Governor Jay Inslee and Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, both Democrats. Mitt Romney was also seen early on in the Black Lives Matter protest. Andre Taylor, who founded the organization, not this time, which aims to reduce police violence, said Tuesday that the 4 recent shootings in the area protesters initially called the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or CHAZ, distract from important messages about racial injustice. His brother, Chi Taylor, was fatally shot by Seattle police in February of 2016. And we have a Seattle business owner who says he plans to move due to lack of leadership and socialist city council. You have to look at both sides here. We have businessmen that were totally trashed. Over and above the I should say below. Below all of the deaths and the injuries. Businesses probably will never be the same for a long time. Many of them will hang in there due to President Donald Trump. The nation is footing the bill and putting businessmen back on their feet. I know that Seattle is going to be helped. So that's what's happening from the Republican side of the fence. If there was no violence, you should have stood there for as long as you wanted to stay there. But the violence creates a different narrative where the people in authority have to look at it differently. Tuesday marked the 15th consecutive night protesters have occupied the Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. which includes the abandoned East Precinct, which officers were ordered to pull back from following a week of clashes between police and demonstrators in the wake of the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis on May 25th. People walk amidst barricades in what has been named the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest Zone in Seattle, June 22nd, 2020. For the second time in less than 48 hours, there was a shooting near the CHOP that has been occupied by protesters after Seattle police pulled back. People walk amidst barricades in what has been named the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest Zone in Seattle, Monday, June 22nd. For the second time in less than 48 hours, there was a shooting near the CHOP. This area has been occupied by protesters after Seattle police pulled back from several blocks of the city's Capitol Hill neighborhood near the police department's East Precinct. Lorenzo Anderson, just 19 years old, with his whole life in front of him, was shot and killed in the CHOP early Saturday morning. A second man shot Saturday remained hospitalized in satisfactory condition. A third person, a 17-year-old, was shot Sunday night and has been released from the hospital. A fourth shooting early Tuesday morning left a man hospitalized, also in satisfactory condition, Como reported. Our community does not support the violence, Taylor told Como in another interview. Oh, somebody just got shot, but CHOP? Our community does not support the violence, Taylor told Como in another interview. Oh, somebody just got shot. This young baby, this 19-year-old, you're going to pause and you're going to think about this black man because that's the reason you did it for. Mayor Durkin said Monday she planned to dismantle the CHOP after a weekend of violence in the area protesters deemed a no-cop co-op. Police Chief Carmen Best said that officers would soon return to the East Precinct. But Durkin vowed she would first work with the community organizers to convince protesters to disband before using police intervention once again. Taylor said Tuesday that he attempted to broker a meeting between Durkin and some of the CHOP organizers, but the organizers canceled at the last minute, King reported. He said he planned to bring a group of pastors to the CHOP to convince them that their movement won't be stuck to a place. CHOP has become an idea that people will not forget. You can take this idea around this country and then around this world, he said. Ideas can't be killed. Police have said his brother, Chi Taylor, a known felon, disobeyed commands to put his hands up before reaching for a handgun in his Ford Taurus when officers fired, King reported. King County prosecutor Dan Scatterberg said in January 2019 that charges would not be filed against the officers. Why? What's the reason? He cited Washington state law that deems a police officer shall not be held criminally liable for using deadly force without malice, and with a good faith belief that such act is justifiable, Kiro reported. Taylor's organization is advocating for Initiative 940, a bill that would make it easier to bring charges against officers who use deadly force, among other police reforms. There are so many things that we can learn from this. There are so many ideas that are floating around. You have to imagine those of you who live in small towns, rural areas, having someone killed in your neighborhood by police. This is something that has to stop. Police have to be psychologically evaluated before they are sent into a situation. Many times in the armed forces, people are chosen to do certain jobs by what they know. And if they're psychologically capable of doing this job, this is what has to happen. Okay, this police officer isn't a bad person. He is not the right person for this type of work.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Good evening from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. And I'd like to perhaps put an experiment out there for you to think about. Many do not like the fact that police officers are armed. They don't like the fact that they have a sidearm, a shotgun in the car, pepper spray. The next time there is a violent outbreak in a city, send police with something that says on their back and on their chest, "We are not armed. We are here to talk." Now, I wonder what would happen if we did that. Do you think the people would see that written on the police officers and talk? They might. Human nature says that they will talk. Psychology says that they will talk. It's like a stop sign in the middle of a protest. They can't say that the police came there to shoot someone. They came there to talk. So, with this, we could learn how to handle people that get out of control. Perhaps better martial arts training, so that if they did get into trouble, they would have a way to defend themselves. The protesters have signs. So, on the policeman's back, I am unarmed. I am here to help you. That's my closing thought. Good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. God bless.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.